Friday, October 20, 2017. I now invite the Honourable Minister of Finance to make a statement. The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honour to table in both official languages the fall economic statement. Pursuant to Standing Order 23.1, I also have the honour to table a Ways and Means motion to amend the Income Tax Act. Pursuant to Standing Order 82, I request that this item be placed on the order of on the agenda.
Mr. Speaker, middle-class Canadians expect their government and the economy to work for them, not the other way around. It's why 2 years ago they asked for real change. They asked us to invest in them, in their communities, and in the economy, to create jobs now and to build a better future for them, for their children, and for their grandchildren. They asked us to protect the air that they breathe and to make sure every child has access to clean drinking water. They asked us to help their families make ends meet and to provide equal opportunities for women and men and children in our country.
Canadians ask us to invest in their future and to put more money in their pockets, to give them a little more breathing room at the end of the month.
When I was door knocking in my riding in Toronto Centre during the election, just before being elected, one of my volunteers, a 13-year-old girl, handed me a note. On it was a list of her family members, all of whom needed to find permanent housing, a place to call home. This little girl had been helping me all day long, and now she was asking me to help her and her family to find a safe place to live. Like millions of other Canadians, she asked us to keep our focus on them so that they have the tools and the resources they need to succeed. And when Canadians succeed, they grow our economy, they create jobs, and together we build a better future. So, Mr. Speaker, we came to office with a plan to help those that are working hard to be successful, not just those that already are. We came to office knowing that growing the middle class is how we grow the economy. Today, we're doubling down on that strategy because it's a strategy that's working. In just 2 years, over 450,000 new jobs have been created, and youth unemployment is the lowest on record. Economic growth has spiked from a meager 0.9% that we took over from the previous government to the highest we've seen in over a decade. The
Canadian economy is performing well. In fact, jobs are being created at the fastest pace in over a decade.
2 years, we've lifted 26 long-term boil water advisories on reserve. Yes. 350,000 more students get help each year to afford books, tuition, and to earn a degree. We've effectively doubled the Canada Summer Jobs Program, helping 65,000 students find work during the summer months.
We've given 9 million Canadians a tax cut. With the Canada Child Benefit, we're lifting 300,000 children out of poverty. And we've put more money in the pockets of 9 out of 10 families. These families contribute to their community and the Canadian economy by in turn investing in their family through new skates, piano lessons, or through healthier food.
In just 2 years, we've secured better retirements for Canadian workers today and in the future, for future generations, with a stronger Canada pension plan. And for that little girl and her family in Toronto, and for 1.6 million other families across the country, we've invested in the National Housing Strategy to help make sure they have a safe and affordable place to live. We've put more money in the pockets of 900,000 seniors living on a fixed income, with increases in the guaranteed income supplement, allowing them more freedom and less worry. What it boils down to is that in just 2 years, we've built up confidence in the economy and in our middle class. We know that when we make these investments in Canadians, they grow our economy. That's the fundamental difference between our plan and what happened in the previous decade. And in just 2 years, we're seeing results, very positive results. Thanks to the hard work of Canadians, our country leads the G7 countries in growth this year and is positioned to continue to lead those countries next year. As our economy grows, the bottom line improves. In this fall economic statement, Canada's fiscal outlook has improved by over $8.5 billion this year, compared to what we were expecting. Mr. Speaker, Canada's net debt to GDP ratio, the size of our debt relative to our economy, will continue to decline. Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, not only is our plan working, it's working better than expected. Our strong fiscal position allows us to do what other countries would like to do, but can't afford to do. We're investing in ourselves and in our future.
Strong fiscal position allows us to do what other countries would like to do, but can't afford to do. We're investing in ourselves and in our future. It allows us to take full advantage of the kind of strong economic performance we're seeing now by reinvesting in the middle class while maintaining the flexibility needed to manage global uncertainty. But, Mr. Speaker, as members on this side of the House know, a thriving economy and a solid bottom line are only half of the answer. As the economy grows, we need to make sure that the benefits of that growth are shared with the middle class and with all those that are working hard to get into the middle class. And as we invest directly in Canadians and their families, we have an immediate impact on the economy. On July 20th, 2016, 9 out of 10 Canadian families began receiving more money, tax-free, from the Canada Child Benefit. When families like mine stopped receiving benefit checks, our government was able to put more money directly in the pockets of the moms and dads who need it most.
Order. The Honourable Minister of Finance has the floor. Order.
Mr. Speaker, and the important point here is that when we invested in Canadian families through the Canada Child Benefit, what we saw is that right away, in turn, they invested in their families. They paid off debts, sent the kids to summer camp, bought healthier food, maybe even a few more children's books. Right away, what did we see? We saw a spike in consumer confidence, a rise in household spending that continues to underpin our strong economic success today. It's no wonder that the International Monetary Fund's Christine Lagarde says that she hopes that Canada's economic policies will go viral. So now, Mr. Speaker, with a little more wind in our sails, we're doubling down on a plan that has worked. Avec un peu plus de vent dans...
As I said, with a little more wind in our sails, we're doubling down on a plan with proven results and reinvesting in the middle class. Our government will strengthen the Canada Child Benefit by making sure it keeps pace with the cost of living.
We'll strengthen the Canada Child Benefit by making sure that it keeps pace with the cost of living. Starting next July, 2 years ahead of schedule, tax-free Canada Child Benefit amounts for families with 2 children will go up by approximately $200. Mr. Speaker, it doesn't stop there. The next year, those families will see about $500 more for their family. And for those Canadians that are working hard to join the middle class, many of whom are living alone, will offer even more help with an increase in the working income tax benefit. This increase will give an important boost to over 1.5 million low-income workers so they can keep more of their pay as they work long hours, sometimes in more than one job, to advance their career and to advance the situation of themselves and, in some situations, their families. We know, Mr. Speaker, that for young single workers just getting a foothold, shouldering the rising cost of living alone can sometimes be a crushing responsibility. For someone living alone, now the most common type of household in Canada, according to the latest census, thank you for the latest census, this could mean it's always good to have information from which to make decisions, Mr. Speaker. So for someone living alone, this could mean not having to make the choice between buying groceries and paying the rent. For a single mom, a stronger Canada Child Benefit and a more generous working income tax benefit means more peace of mind when the bills come due at the end of the month. Finally, we're investing directly in Canada's small businesses by lowering the small business rate from what was 11% in 2015 to 9% by January.
I greatly appreciate the frank discussions I've had with Canadian entrepreneurs over the past few weeks.
A few months have taught me anything. It's the strength and resilience of entrepreneurs and small business owners across our country. It's been humbling and inspiring to meet with so many passionate business owners from coast to coast over the past few weeks. I called a woman in St. John's who was concerned about her situation after she told her premier about it. He told me, and I called her the very next day. Our caucus heard from a town hall in Kelowna, including personal stories from young women physicians who needed added flexibility. Just last week, I went to Erinsville, Ontario, where I met with John and Laurie and their son Angus to learn about their family farm. Angus wants to take over the farm someday. He'll be the 7th generation of his family to have that honor. Mr. Speaker, we're committed to making sure that for Angus and other people like Angus across our country, they can take over their family farm. I met Brittany and Rebecca in a cafe in Hampton, New Brunswick, and the Rampula family in their family restaurant in Markham, where I committed to coming back for food sometime soon. These are the people who drive me to do better, and I can say, Mr. Speaker, drive all of our caucus to do better, to try and to make sure that we get things right. Through you, Mr. Speaker, I can say to them, I heard you, we heard you, and we made a point of ensuring that we got the system right. We held We held a consultation to fix a system that's not working the way that was intended. That, we know, Mr. Speaker, is critically important. Avant de pouvoir en baisser.
Before we could lower taxes for small businesses, I had to be sure this investment was going to help the Sorelli family in Montreal to design and build their dream kitchens rather than giving tax advantages to the wealthiest.
As the Prime Minister said last week, Canada is a country where we celebrate our collective contributions rather than protect the interests of a privileged few. It's in that spirit we're moving forward to fix the system.
Order.
It's in that spirit, Mr.
Order.
that we're moving forward to fix a system that currently allows someone making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to pay a lower tax rate than someone making far less, just because they're incorporated and have children that are over the age of 18. For incorporated professionals and business owners, we'll preserve the flexibility to save up for a rainy day, for parental leave, or for retirement, while not allowing individuals to have unlimited tax-advantaged savings accounts over and above what's available to everyone else. That's what we got it right. And as I said, Mr. Speaker, we'll work with farmers, fishers, and business owners to make sure that they can pass down the family business to the next generation. Nous allons travailler avec les fermes.
As I just said, we will work with farmers, fishers, and business owners to make sure they can pass down the family business to the next generation. Our approach is to give all Canadians a real chance at success.
Everything we do, our government knows that when Canadians are given a real and fair chance at success, they'll make the most of it. That's how you grow an economy, sustainably. And that's how you manage finances, responsibly. As we continue with our plan, we will continue to do what is hard. We will continue to do what is right. Our ultimate goal is nothing short of an economy that rewards the very people who contribute to its success. As we look to Budget 2018, we'll continue our work to build on the gains that we've made over the last 2 years, always with the middle class and those working hard to join it as our key focus. We'll make sure that Canadians have the skills, the training, and the learning opportunities they need to compete and to thrive in a rapidly changing global economy. We'll drive forward our innovation and skills plan, making big bets on the most competitive sectors of our economy, making Canada a world leader in sectors like the agri-food sector, clean tech, and digital. We'll continue investments in our transit, in our roads, and in clean water to keep our cities moving and to keep our children safe. And always, Mr. Speaker, we'll invest in Canadians, give them the tools, skills, and resources to create jobs and to grow our economy. In just 2 years, we've done a lot together. But we know, Mr. Speaker, that there's much more to do. Working together, we'll make sure that Canadians have every opportunity to succeed, to build their future in a country that we can all be proud of. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order. We're going on with the next speaker, the honourable member for Carleton.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, moments ago, the finance minister had the audacity to say that families like his are not getting any benefit checks in Canada. This from the finance minister who only days ago we learned has been taking $65,000 dividend checks from a company that he regulates. And those are on a monthly basis, Mr. Speaker, not to be confused. Now, this is from a finance minister who says that, quote, a privileged few should pay more. Yet, nothing in today's proposal would see the family fortunes of this finance minister or the Prime Minister touched by any taxes at all. Once again, they have sheltered themselves. Now on to the bigger picture. This Prime Minister promised a small $10 billion deficit. Remember that? Today we learned that the deficit is double that. He promised the budget would be balanced by 2019. Now we learn the deficit will be almost $17 billion in that year, and there are no balanced budgets projected by this government ever. There is literally not a single year into the distant future when this government projects ever eliminating the deficit, apparently believing that the government can borrow its way out of debt into prosperity. The pattern here is a government that does exactly the opposite of what it says. They said they'd raise taxes on the rich, and now, according to the finance minister's own department, the rich are paying $1 billion less in taxes. They claimed they'd lower taxes on the middle class. The Fraser Institute confirmed that 87% of middle-class taxpayers are paying more income tax today than they were when this Prime Minister took office. On average, $800 more. So middle-class people like farmers, plumbers, and electricians pay $800 more in tax, while millionaires like the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister are actually paying lower tax. They claim that they would close loopholes. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister puts his money away in trust funds that avoid paying any new tax under his proposals. The same Prime Minister puts funds in numbered companies so that he can avoid paying tax. And of course, the Finance Minister stuffs away his $20 million investment in Morneau in a numbered company in Alberta. So he lives on Bay Street, yet His companies are in Alberta, Barbados, and France, all of which allow him to pay lower taxes than everyone else pay. He is the very definition of the privileged few, the aristocratic old money elite that have taken generational wealth handed down from those who came before them, like the Prime Minister, who took his wealth from the petroleum empire of his grandfather, and yet now wants to protect his own benefits from additional taxation while he forces others to pay more. Such is the system of government that this party creates. They gave nearly $400 million in handouts to Bombardier, a company, by the way, that has hired the finance minister's family business. Now, that company is selling its intellectual property and its next-generation aircraft to a European company, a subsidy effectively from this federal government to protect the wealthy and the well-connected, in particular this time, the billionaire Bombardier-Baudouin family. The old feudal economy, where the rich get richer and the working class pay the bills. This is the new trickle-down government, where they take money from the working class, put it in the hands of politicians, who give it to the wealthiest corporations, and they expect us to believe that it's just going to, a few drops will trickle down to the people who earned it in the first place. The ultimate concentration of wealth, of course, is government. The bigger government gets, the more business invests in lobbying for a larger share of that money. There is definitive research showing that if government gets bigger, businesses spend more on lobbying, because they understand that the way you get rich in a government-run economy is by having the best lobbyist. The way you get ahead in a free market economy is by having the best product or service. On this side of the House of Commons, we believe in a free enterprise economy, where you can only get better off if you sell a product or service to someone that is worth more than they have to pay for it, where you cannot force someone to buy your product through a government edict or a subsidy or taxation, where you have to convince them that the thing you're offering them is actually worth more to them than the dollar they part with to buy it. This government wants to leave behind that free enterprise tradition that has created all of the prosperity that Canadians enjoy. We believe in an economy based on meritocracy. They believe in an economy based on old money and privilege. And it's no surprise, Mr. Speaker, because that is the experience. It is what they have known. It is what they have always understood. We on this side of the aisle will continue to champion the underdog, the striver, the upstart, and the challenger against while they look for new ways to put up obstacles in the way of those who try to get ahead in order to protect the privilege of those who already have lots of money. We will knock down those barriers so people can keep building, growing, and getting ahead, where they will be judged not by their connections or their family pedigree, but by what they have to contribute, where we see the dignity of work inside of every single Canadian and the potential for them to play out that dignity with their own merit and their own contributions, Mr. Speaker. That is the free enterprise, merit-driven vision that we have for the economy. While they continue to expropriate billions of dollars from entrepreneurs and workers in order to spend on complicated schemes like superclusters and Bombardier bailouts, we'll leave that money in the hands of the people who earned it, because they are always better at spending it than those politicians who tax it. And Mr. Speaker, that is the approach we have always taken. It is the reason why, under Prime Minister Harper, we had the biggest drop and the lowest levels of poverty in recorded Canadian history. Poverty fell from highs in the mid-teens under the first Trudeau government to 8.8% in the last full year that the Prime Minister Harper served. He did it by raising the personal exemption to free 1 million low-income Canadians from taxation. He brought in the working income tax benefit to give a pay increase to low-income working people trying to escape from social assistance. We eliminated red tape so small upstart businesses who could not afford accountants and crafty consultants could start their businesses without the shackles of government holding them back. We opened up the economy so that people could strive hard, work hard, and get ahead on their own merit. That is the opportunity economy that we will create. That is the vision we will present, and that is the vision that Canadians will choose in 2019.
The honourable member for Rosemont, La Petite Patrie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to quote the finance minister from his early speech a few minutes ago when he said, "We will continue to invest in ourselves." I think the finance minister should choose his words with a little bit more cautious because if he's desperately trying to change the channel from the scandal he's entangled in, if he continues to say stuff like that, people will just remember that maybe he benefits himself from some investment or legislation he personally tabled in this House of Commons. Mr. Speaker, the document in front of us is called the Fall Economic Statement. I think it should be titled the Failed Economic Statement because some journalists are saying this is the economic update. But to be called an update, you have to bring something new on the table. You have to update it. What we see right now is an exercise of buzzwords and recycling some decisions that have been already, put in the last budget or in some statement from ministers in the last months. So there's nothing new there. If you remember a book from Shakespeare, it's Much Ado About Nothing. And we can, yeah, Shakespeare. I'm down. And if you're looking at the big news, it was supposed to be, it was everywhere yesterday. We will boost the child benefit. We'll boost the child benefit. Something really big announcement from the Liberal government. In fact, it's the indexation. Something that they've already said they will do 6 months ago. And so they are making a big show about something they've already announced. And after that, when you look carefully, this indexation will maybe more or less give $80 to $100 per family, per kid. So this is clearly 2 days in the kindergarten, 2 days per year. And that is the fall economic update. This is what you're talking about, 2 days? Thank you very much. That's so generous. And so there's really nothing there. And we've asked, and they said they will do a real national childcare program, something that the NDP is asking for years, because those measures will not create a single place in public kindergarten. This is what we are facing right now. Families are struggling. They have difficulties to make ends meet, and there's nothing the Liberal government can give to them to make their life a little bit more easier. We still have 250,000 seniors living in poverty in this country. What is in that update? Nothing. There's nothing new. Unemployed people, when they are asking for EI prestations, 6 out of 10 are still refused by the system. The system that is kept in place by the Liberal government. There's nothing here to help all those workers. There's nothing about minimum wage. It's nothing about minimum wage or creating the condition for better wage and better good jobs in this country. Because, Mr. Speaker, I want to be really specific about this. 2016 and 2017 has been the lowest average increase in wages in this country in the last decade. Wow. The lowest average increase in this country in the last decade under this Liberal government, because they are creating jobs, yes, but a lot of Walmart jobs, a lot of cheap labor out of here. I'm sorry. Tax havens, loopholes for CEOs, nothing there, nothing new, it's the same old Liberal business. I think about tax havens, they have like 3 lines. We will continue to study that and maybe one day do something. The investment bank about infrastructure, we have like half a page saying everybody's fine, everything will be all right, we will invest and create some infrastructure. What will be the part of the private sector? What will be the guarantees that this bank will give to private investors? How much it will cost, the Canadian taxpayers and the users that will now have to pay fees to use infrastructure? Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, with your permission. Earlier I was quoting the title of a Shakespearean play. Now I'm going to quote from Blaise Pascal. Blaise Pascal said that spoke about the internal silence of infinite spaces. And it's my sense that this update is actually the silence of infinite spaces. That means when you hold the document up to your ear, you don't hear anything. All you hear are buzzwords. All you hear are promises that everything is going well, and all you see is a recycling of old announcements made by ministers. But there is absolutely nothing that is new or practical to help families and workers. So really, this is a PR exercise. You're just trying to distract away again from the fact that the Minister of Finance is in hot water. They're trying to distract away from the fact that the Minister of Finance introduced a bill that would benefit a company that is still owned by the Minister of Finance, Morneau Chappelle, and a company whose assets were not put in a blind trust. He even forgot that he owned a French villa in France. So I don't think this is the kind of mistake your average Canadian tends to make. Now, the big announcement in this update, which isn't really one in the end, is that there's no improvement to the Canada Child Benefit as we were led to believe over the past few days. The only thing that is being said is that indexation will be implemented for the Canada Child Benefit. But that indexation was supposed to happen 2 years ago. So they made a mistake. And they were really criticized by the media and the public. And so now their big announcement is to make up for a huge mistake that they made ages ago, something they forgot to do ages ago that they're doing now. And this is versus having a national daycare program that could really help people. What will this indexation do? Well, as of 2018, it will bring in maybe $80 to $100 per year per child. I mean, it's better than nothing. But that really pays for 2 days of daycare. In Toronto, maybe that's only 1 day of daycare. So this isn't a plan that creates places for children in daycare. This isn't something that truly helps families with young children. It's just window dressing. And when you look at the other steps being taken, well, it's just a recycling of old ideas, or it's announcements that will be implemented when? In 2019. So if you want to have an idea of what the election campaign is going to be in 2019 for the Liberals, well, that's where this document becomes interesting. For example, the working income tax benefit. Well, that's something that's going to come in 2019. It's being announced today, but it's only going to happen just before the next elections.
There's several things that are missing from this economic update. We have 250,000 seniors living in poverty, nothing on that. There are many unemployed who do not have access to EI. There's nothing on that. The infrastructure privatization bank, we're going to continue with that. And the private sector is going to make money on the backs of Canadian taxpayers. The fight for loopholes against CEOs, there's nothing. Fighting tax havens, there's nothing. I don't know why we tried to generate this a smokescreen for this fall economic update, but people are going to react quickly, and they're going to realize that the Liberals are just doing the same old thing. They continue to work for Bay Street and the elite, and I think that citizens of this country deserve better. Thank you.